let me welcome you to the Bridal Stylist Academy. This is April's monthly class, and I am so excited that you're here. If you haven't met me before, I'm Rachel, and my sole mission is to share the experience that I've gained in my 13 years as a bridal stylist, share that with you so that we can simplify complex styles and you can utilize the techniques that I teach here in order to grow and scale your bridal business. And that starts with learning the foundational tools. So when we start these classes, I always start with the products that we're going to be using, the tools that we're going to be using, how we're going to prep the hair, and then we'll get into the overall style. Because if we don't prep the hair appropriately, then our styles, one, will collapse, they'll turn frizzy, or you will absolutely hate them. So let's build that foundation to create beautiful bridal styles off of. So with that, let's just dive right in. First, let's check what type of hair we're working with. So this is Cheney. She's here with me today, and she has virgin hair. So some of the most challenging hair to work with, which is why I chose her as our model. I wanted you to be able to see a realistic head of hair to create this style so that you knew that it was possible. So very, very fine, mid-length. So I have some length to work with, which is great. If I was working with shorter hair, then I'd highly recommend adding extensions into the style. Once we get to the area where extensions would be included, I'll talk to you about that, but we're not going to be adding extensions in today. But I'll at least show you like, okay, this is where the extensions will be added. Now we are working with a fringe, which I love, which would be super cute with this style. So we'll talk about how to prep that in order to alleviate the oils from the forehead, kind of mixing in with that hair and then them going frizzy and flat after a few hours. So we're going to jump right into prepping this fine virgin flat hair. Ready? All right, so the products that we're going to be using today for our prep, I swear by it, my KMS sea salt spray. Swear by it. I've used so many different sea salt sprays. I just love this one. If you wanted to use a mousse as well, you could, a volumizing mousse. What I find the difference between the sea salt spray and the mousse is the fact that the sea salt spray gives me a little bit of grit. The volume mousse is great for volume, but it's still slippery. And when we're working with fine hair, we want some grit in there to hold our bobby pins, to hold that shape. So we're going to be throwing in some sea salt spray and then blow drying this crown area. If you're working with any oils in the hair, then this is also a great way to dry up those oils. So I'm going to just comb through this lightly. Now, what comes with fine hair is a lot of static. So you can see like the static is insane today. So we'll be combating that as well. And the sea salt spray is really going to help. Now I'm going to take from the crown area right behind the fringe and just comb this back. And I'm going to apply my sea salt spray generously to this crown area. So I'm pretty much going to make this wet as if I was misting it with water. But I'm just going to really focus that on the crown area and right here on the sides as well. Then we're going to blow this out. And when we blow this out, we're going to do a rough dry just to really get this product in the hair. Don't be afraid to use it generously. I know it seems scary at first, so try it on a doll head or something if you're scared, or even try it on yourself if you tend to have flat, frizzy hair. Just comb that product through just to detangle it. All right, she's nice and wet. And then I'm just going to use my Dyson and around, first before I'm going to use a round brush, but first I'm going to just go in and I'm just going to go in and rough dry this. All right, I'm just going to put myself on mute really quickly, just so you don't have to hear the sound of the blow dry. That may help too long, but I'm still not gonna. You feel it? Awesome. All right. So if you notice in there, I'm really over directing the hair. So flipping the hair to the opposite side and really working the airflow up away. That's going to give me the most maximum lift as it's over directed and then it comes back down. I don't know if you guys can see the difference in the thickness in this area. I wish that you could feel it because even Cheney said that she can feel a difference just on her scalp, how much more fullness there is, but also look at this control. So when I hold the hair up and then I let it go, see how it doesn't split where that, where that growth pattern is? That's why I recommend the sea salt spray over the mousse. The mousse is going to give you volume. The problem with the mousse is that it's not going to sustain the entire style. So it's going to give you that volume right away, but it still has that softness. It doesn't provide that grit. One of the questions here is the wet better than a dry texturizer? So what I find is actually putting in that wet product and then drying it, it coats the strand differently than if you're just doing dry texture. That's why I prefer the wet. Also with the wet, you can change and manipulate the pattern that the hair is falling. So when you put in dry texture spray, it's like you put it in and you're going to get that volume, but the hair is still going to lay whatever that directional flow is when it dried. With doing the wet, you can over direct the hair and you can change and manipulate the way the hair is falling. So that's why I recommend, that's just one of the other reasons why I recommend the wet over the dry. The other question was to get more manipulation, directional movement. I think I answered that. Why? Yeah, I think like you answered your own question, Gina, about, why the wet. It just makes such a big difference. It also gives me so much more volume, almost expanding this area so that I have fullness. Now I'm going to take my round brush and just pull some of this hair back. Because of the style that we're doing, I wanted to kind of eliminate this part here. So Cheney's natural part just kind of falls right here. I wanted to eliminate that because the style that we're doing, I'm just going to pull this hair straight back. So in putting in that wet sea salt spray and then over directing the hair, I got maximum lift at the root. And then I'm just going to use my brown brush and my blow dryer to smooth out a little bit of the frizz. Sweet. So that is finished up, and you can see now, look at that. This is the kind of hair, like that's the structure we're looking for. Do you see that airiness? You're not going to get that with other products. So grab the sea salt spray, try it. Again, I highly recommend the KMS one. If there was another one that I recommended, I would tell you as well. But I do really like this product. So hopefully they don't discontinue this one like they're discontinuing all the other products. But anyways, this airiness that you can see, you're not going to get it with a different product. So try that out. Also, you're not going to get that grittiness from a volumizing powder. So you still have control, you have movement, it's malleable. That's the kind of the texture that we're looking for before we start any style. So if you've been around here for a little bit, or this is your first time, sea salt spray is one of my go-to products when I am prepping the hair, because it is literally a godsend. Okay, so KMS sea salt spray, love it. All right, what's next? Well, if you are working again with really fine hair, or if you didn't have this fringe, then I would recommend going in and micro crimping just the sides and the crown area. We're not going to do that because we have this fringe that's going to come forward. I don't need that extra texture here because my bun is actually going to sit right behind these bangs. Now, if I didn't have these bangs, sorry, my love, I hate when people touch my bangs. If these bangs were coming back, then that's why I would say micro crimp this area, because you want to have really nice flow and smoothness coming from the hairline. I would kill somebody if they touch my bangs like this. So she's so nice to me, you guys. All right, so we'll put that back down. All right, so now we just need to go in and put in a little bit of texture. So first things first is prepping the crown, and the curling iron that I'm going to be using just to get a little bit of bend in the hair. I am going to be using a 1.25 bioionic, however you say that, curling iron. Now, I do not ever recommend using a 1.25 curling iron if you are actually putting curls in the hair to create a half up, half down, things like that, unless you're doing like a blowout style. But because we're just looking for a little bit of bend in the hair, a 1.25 is going to be okay. I don't think that a 1.25, I don't think that you get a lot of longevity and hold. And so that's why I don't recommend using that on a regular basis when creating bridal styles. I'm going to add a little bit of Sebastian aerosol spray just on the top layer of this. This is just to help combat some of that static that's happening. All right, and then we'll just put that off to the side. And now we're going to take the 1.25-inch curling iron and just add in a little bit of bend to the hair. This is going to help when that hair comes up to the top, that I have a little bit of movement in the hair. I'm going to start over on this side. I'm going to take pretty big sections. Flip this down for you for a second. You can see a little bit more of that. Okay. So I'm going to take pretty small sections. I'm sorry, I'm going to take pretty large sections and just wrap this. They can be inconsistent. You can alternate directions, but you can see I'm just looking for a little bit of bend. Another tool that you can use to create this bend, you can use a flat iron if you want, if that helps. If you're working with pretty frizzy hair, a flat iron is great for this because you're smoothing the hair and also giving it a little bit of bend at the same time. Again, your curls do not have to be consistent. Just looking for some movement. I'm just quickly running my fingers through the strand just to detangle it a little bit. All in all, this prep, I mean, should take you maybe 5-10 minutes, not very long. And then you'll jump right into creating the style. Start over on this side here. And the hair closest to the ear, to the back, to behind the ear, I am always curling that away from the face. It's a good habit to get into. If you want to alternate the direction of the curls back through here, you absolutely can. But from the ear forward, always away from the face. And then as I unroll this, I'm just kind of unrolling this and giving a little bit of a tug on those ends just to smooth them out. Okay, last one here, right in the center. A little bit for me. So you can just see just a little bit of bend in the hair. Nothing crazy. We'll leave that curling iron on just in case we need it at the very end. I'm gonna add a little bit more aerosol spray. This is the Sebastian Shaper, a very, very light workable spray. So it's not anything too heavy. And as you can see, I'm still dealing with that static. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of that to rough it up. And then we're good to go. Okay, so how are we going to map out this style? If you know me, then you know I'm all about mapping out the style to make it easier so that we can bricklay our style one step on top of the other. Well, first things first is we need to pull out our sides. Our sides are going to be our detail pieces. Now, I never recommend taking from right behind the ear and leaving all of that hair out. So instead, and I don't recommend that because it's just too much hair left out. So instead, let's find the back of the ear and the hairline, and then just the very top, right along the hairline. Let's make a zigzag part, and then just pull out that little bit. Okay, so it's almost like a C shape versus just taking this and bringing it straight down. We're actually going to follow the curvature of the hair, and that's going to give us a much more natural look. So we'll just leave that out. I'm going to do the same exact thing to the other side. So just right along the hairline, zigzag part, and just leave out that much, not much at all. Perfect. And that is going to just be our little bit of detail pieces to come around here. Also keep in mind that you want face framing. So we don't want this to be too harsh. So when you're pulling out that amount of hair on the side that's going to come back and be these detail pieces on the side here, make sure that you leave enough out for the face framing. So that's enough hair for me. I don't like to leave too much hair out because then it just causes me to have to deal with it at the end. So now that I have the rest of this hair, this is all of the hair that is actually going to be up, and we're going to pull it up, and then it's going to be on top just like that. Now, the reason why this hair just flows up here so easily is because of that prep. So if I would have just gone in and shown you real quickly, like, oh, we're just going to take this hair like this and we're going to flip it and then we're going to bring it up here and it's just going to be beautiful, it wouldn't look as beautiful. You'd have texture in here, unwanted texture. You'd be able to see the scalp. We don't want that. So make sure that you take the time to do the prep because that makes it so much easier. That's that foundation that I was talking about in the beginning. If you create that foundation, then everything else can be built on top of that and nothing is going to collapse. Now, before we go any further, we want to prep a little bit of this bottom section. Because this is going to be coming up and this area is going to be exposed, I want to make sure that this section looks really nice and is clean when it comes up this way. Because I'm working with fine hair, it tends to look thinner in these areas. And sometimes if there's any natural oils in the hair, then it can look oily and separate in areas where we don't want them to. See, just like this, right? So we want to eliminate that. The way we're going to eliminate that is using some volume powder. Now, at this point, we're not going to go in with the wet sea salt spray. We're going to go in with a dry product. This is going to help me with two different things. It's going to help smooth this out so that it's really nice, soft, and airy. It's also going to give control so that when this hair is coming up, it doesn't just sag and end up falling out. So it's going to create foundation and hold for me. I'm just going to take this in and add a little bit of volume powder, not too much. I'm gonna add it right around the hairline because again, that's gonna create that airiness for me. Now, when you're working with fine hair, especially static, that volume powder can exacerbate the static. So be careful and mindful of that. So just be patient with the hair. Don't move too fast. And you can always spray with a little bit more of the aerosol spray. It kind of helps just hold all of that static in place, just enough for you to get in and create this section. Now we're going to take the hairline section first, just right here, and just add a little bit of backcombing right there at the hairline. Just enough to fill in that area and give me fullness. All right. Now you want to have enough hair down in this section before you lift and before you add any backcombing, because you don't want that backcombing to be exposed on the outer layer. So as you saw, I'm pulling these side sections just like this, right? And then putting that backcombing just on the inside of that section so that when I comb this out, I can smooth that out and I have a really, really smooth outer area. Now I'm going to bring down another section, and this time I'm going to bring down from the back of the ear to that very first section down at the nape. And why am I doing this? Because this is the outer exposed area, and we want that outer exposed area to be smooth, shiny, and not have any gaps from the fine hair. So I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side section. So we'll take this, a little bit of volume powder. Use your fine tooth rat tail comb and just back comb just a little bit. Do you see that immediate difference? See the difference there? That's what we're looking for. Okay, so not too much to where you're creating too much volume. At this point, we're just creating shape and hold. And look how much smoother that area is than this side over here. So see how we have gaps from the natural fine hair. That's what we don't want. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing on this side here. Just add a little bit of volume powder. Remember, add your volume powder where you're actually going to back comb the hair. So I don't want to add my volume powder to the root because I'm not back combing the root. Add it to the section that you're back combing it. So I'm going to back comb that first inch and a half right there. So that's where you want to add your your volume powder. All right, so just push that in just like that. And then make sure that when we bring this over, we don't create too much shape because you don't want bulk coming from the neck. You want to keep this pretty narrow, but we want this nice and smooth. So that's it. Those sides have been worked. They're good to go. I'm going to add a little bit of aerosol spray, hold that in place. And then I'm just going to leave those just like that. No, it looks crazy, okay? See that? Looks crazy? It's okay. It's all going to make sense in a second. So now we're going to take this section. Now, if you're dealing with any separation up here, you can do the exact same thing. You can add in some volume powder, but remember, you don't want too much height here in the front because this is where that bun is going to sit, and we want that to be a little bit smoother, and then the bun to be the height, not a big poof and then height. Okay, so I'm going to take all of this hair in my hand. If you're working with kind of frizzy hair, then you can grab some smoothing cream. That would work. I don't want to use any smoothing cream on fine hair because it will it's porous. It will soak it all up. It will make it limp. I'm going to take my wide tooth comb and start lifting this hair. I'm going to put her sideways so you can see how high I'm going with this. All right, and I'm going to use my wide tooth comb first. Comb all of this hair. Keep your palm open so that you can just add that hair into your palm and manipulate it into your hand. And the area we're working, the point that you're trying to get is directly diagonal from the back of the ear. That's where you want to start your twist. If we start it down here, what's going to happen is it's not going to have that modern look. It's going to create that big roll here on the side. And we don't want that. That's old school. We're looking for a more modern look. So take your comb, put it on the back of the ear where it's setting 100%, and then bring that right across. And that angle right there, that's what you're looking for. That's where we're going to start our twist. Remember, that's not where the bun is going to land, but that's where we're going to start twisting the hair to bring it all on top of the head. So continue working the hair in that direction really, really gently. Don't forget that you have that back combing in there. And the reason why I like this wide tooth comb is because you can see it's creating those lines of texture. See that? That's really, really pretty. Okay. So the wide tooth comb is great for this. If you use too fine of a comb, fine teeth, then it's all going to be one piece and you're not going to get this cool texture here. All right, so that wide tooth comb is perfect. You don't slide it in too far into this area because that's where you did that back combing, but look for those lines of texture. And once you're happy with that, then give it a little spray. Let it know that that's where it's going to hang out. Okay, another little trick that I want you to pay attention to is the fact that when I'm pulling this hair, I'm not pulling it straight up like this into a ponytail. Instead, I'm letting that hair come down, create a little bit of a swoop, and come back up. So it's like a little bit of a happy face. That's going to give it a much more natural look. It's also going to give me those lines of texture, that drapery that we're looking for. It's much more aesthetically pleasing when this style is finished. Actually going to grab my fork comb because I have a little bit of a mess right here on this side. So I just want to use my fork comb to bring this back up and make sure that I have it in my hand really nicely. And then I'm going to use the prongs of that fork comb to make sure that I like my texture down here at the bottom. I want a little bit of droopiness, but not so much that I look like I have a saggy diaper. Spray that. I lift this hair. All right, now I'm ready to start my twist. So I'm going to take the hair in my right hand and I'm going to twist it counterclockwise and then bring that up just like that. Now, if we wanted to start it a little bit lower, you could, because when I pulled a little bit higher. So let's bring this down a little bit, right back to where I told you initially. Okay, right at the tip of the ear. See that? Back of the ear, straight across. All right, and I'm going to start twisting a little bit sooner. So I'm going to get back under there with my right hand, and I'm going to twist counterclockwise, and I'm holding the hair really, really gently in my hand, twisting that up. There we go. That's what I like right there. So that's the twist I'm looking for, just like that. And then make sure that it's in the center of the head. Okay. From the profile, you want to double check that profile because we don't want this too saggy, right? But we also don't want, let me show you this side over here. What we don't want is we don't want that old school where it starts, so the twist starts down here to where this hair is just wrapped across this way. Do you remember that look? It was like a very like grandma matronly, you know, it's not a French twist. Okay. All right. So we're taking this hair up, and now what we need to do is we need to lock this in place. So here's the trick with your pins. You want to take, you know what, before I put this pin in, I just want to make sure that I like the drapery of this, because this is where I have like the ability to pull on this. So I'm just going to pull on this a little bit more. I want this to come down just a smidge. I'm looking for like a little bit of a messier look. I don't want everything to be too perfect. I want to create a couple more lines of texture through here. So before you pin anything, just go ahead and give those a little tug. Now, when you're pulling on this hair, pull down, don't pull out. Okay, pull down and continue creating those happy faces. Then I'm going to use my fork comb to smooth that out. See those extra lines of texture? Those are really pretty because you are going to see that on the side. So let's double check this side and make sure that we like our line. See how this is coming straight into that twist? It's too tight. We need a little bit more of this drapery coming down this way. Okay, so hold your twist kind of tight and then pull this section out, down, not out towards you, down. Okay, creating more of a U shape. Cool. And not too saggy here. All right. Okay, lock that in. Now we're ready to pin. So double check that you're in the center. And then we're going to take just our 1.5-inch regular bobby pins, keeping them closed. Take a little bit of your twist and then wrap it and run it right along the scalp. So I'll take another one, a little bit of the twist. So you're almost creating a belt across to hold it in place. A little bit of your twist. And right now I'm just going to add one more. Just down here. And kind of go up into my twist a little bit. All right. And then I'm going to leave this and I'll show you how I'm going to secure it again. But for now, I just want to leave that there. Let's give it a nice little spray. Let's check our profile to make sure we have a little bit. See, we have a little bit of sagginess, a little bit of movement, but not too much. And here you can come in and manipulate this if you want to bring this down a little bit. I think that's kind of pretty, getting the loop right there. So this is just kind of like your artistic freedom to add in any extra texture. Just, you want to be careful that you don't create too much width. That's what we want to be careful with, okay? I'm going to add one more bobby pin just right here, just to make sure that I'm not moving. And check this side here. Okay, I like that. All right, so now we're going to grab these sides over here. Add a little bit of Sebastian and a little bit of volume powder. Grab your fine tooth rat tail comb. And the reason why I'm adding in the back combing is not in order to create volume. Remember, it's to keep all of that fine hair together. So we can take this hair. I think I might take my curling iron and just add a little bit more bend to this. A little bit more bend to this one as well. I think too perfect, just a little bit of bend. And that piece that I already added some volume powder to, just want to bring this up and add a little bit of texture to this side here. You could twist it. Most of this is going to be covered up, so you can twist it. You can bring it really low if you want. You really have creative freedom at this point. So I'm going to just take this up and just set that right through there. All right, I don't want to add another line of texture like this. Okay, you don't want to do that because then you're going to be combating that. So I want it to flow right into the lines of texture that are already there, but I want this piece to be on top. And this is kind of like your safety piece, because if you had a mess there or anything was wrong, then you're able to just kind of use that piece to hide any of it. Okay, so now I'm going to take a little bit of my twist and I'm going to collect that hair and then run that right up into my twist. And now that piece is safe and sound, just right there. And then clean up that section. Okay, and see that cool line of texture right there? Look at that from the side. See that? That's gonna look really nice when the rest of it is pulled up. I'm gonna do the same exact thing with this side here, this last little piece. So this is why I said you don't wanna leave out too much hair. It's really just your safety pieces to kind of help you cover up anything that you're like, oops, I don't want that to show. All right. But you don't want too much left out because then you're just going to have to find homes for it. So I'm checking right now how much hair I actually want to leave out around the front. I think that's a good amount. Maybe one more right there. That's probably a good amount. I'll pin that one down here. I'll pin that after, or maybe we'll leave that one out because we can always tuck that one later. So let's leave that one out. All right, so a little bit of volume powder. One of the questions that I see that I'll answer right now is if the hair is longer and thicker, would you take 2 twists? Yeah, absolutely. You have several different options depending on the type of hair that you're dealing with. I have done this style with doing 2 twists. You just don't want those 2 twists to show unless that's the desired look. So it really just kind of depends on what your goals are. But if you're working with really, really thick hair, then yeah, absolutely. You can take 2 twists to help hold that up. It will alleviate the weight of the hair for your client, but also you guarantee hold and longevity because otherwise you're risking it collapsing. I like these pieces, so I'm just going to leave those down for right now. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side. So this side is up. I really like the texture here. So let me grab my bobby pins and we'll just shoot over to this other side here. And you can see I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. I do need to add some curl. So let me grab my curling iron and get untwisted. I'm just going to put Cheney straight for a second. Let's flip this hair. This is all my hair. Let's flip that over to the other side so it's out of my way. And then just add some curl. Make sure that when you're curling these sections that you're curling away from the face. If you want these to be a little bit tighter, then just grab a 1-inch barrel. I don't want anything too tight. If her hair wasn't holding, or if I wanted a little bit more curl here in the front for the face framing pieces, then I would curl this with a 1-inch barrel or with a flat iron, because this 1.25, it's not going to give me enough hold if I was looking for a tighter curl around the face. I'm just going to work some of this fringe since I'm over here on the side. I'm going to pull this away from her face so that we get a really nice like 70s swoop here. Is that 70s? We'll roll with it. We'll just start working that since I'm over here on this side. Okay, let's grab our volume powder and add in. Let's make sure we leave out as much. Let me double check with the front and make sure that we leave out the same amount of hair. So I have a little bit more length on that side than this side. It's probably this corner piece right here. So let's just leave that out. You can see the static that we're dealing with today. Just one of those days. But it's good for you to see, kind of what to do with all that static, because it does happen. And we don't want to add in so much product that we weigh down the hair when it's fine. So using that sea salt spray really helped maintain that static, especially in the root area. And then just adding a little bit of aerosol spray as we're working. You could use some wet hairspray, which I swear by. I'm just using a little bit more of the aerosol today because of the fact that I want a little bit more of an airiness. So I'm looking for those lines right now. Just something really pretty. But also this is going to be exposed here. So you want it to be on purpose. Okay, and now that I like that, I'm just going to take that and pin that right up into my twist. Okay, use your spray to define that. Okay, having some separation in your texture is totally awesome. The only thing you don't want is to have that separation at the actual root. So using that volume powder and the back combing is going to help keep that in place. All right, so you can see that cool texture just like that. I love those lines. So these are those lines I'm talking about. So you can have separation in those lines. That's awesome because you want to have visual interest. All right, and then right there. Did I pin it into the twist? Yeah, sorry, you were on the opposite side, I guess. I took it right here and just pinned right. That's the, let me show you. That's the hair right there. And so I just stuck it right up into the twist. You can see like I didn't even capture that one. So we'll just grab that piece right there. And I just keep my pins closed, take a little bit of your twist, and then just pin that right up. And the reason why that's exposed, we don't want that to be exposed. All right, the reason why I take a little bit of that twist is so that that pin is hidden inside there. See, just like that. Awesome. Okay, so now we're gonna bring this hair up. Let's make sure that we are narrow. When I say narrow, we wanna keep all of this within the neckline, so you don't wanna expand bigger than the neckline. And then I'm just gonna check. We want to check this side over here, just like that. Yeah, that's good. So see how we have a little bit of a swoop here, and then we're flat here, and then all of our volume is going to go up here. What we don't want is we don't want that volume to be right here on the occipital bone. All right. If we put it here, then we're pulling that hair out. And even on this side, you can see, listen, if we pull out here, then we create an alien shape. And that's what we don't want. So that's why when we talk about this modern twist, it's a little bit of swoopiness and softness here, narrow right at the occipital, right above the nape, and then full on the top. The old school French twist, but pulled it, remember? It pulled it like really, really wide all the way across here. And so you just had this weird flat twist and it pulled the head out this way and it created this weird alien shape. We just want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So narrowing in right there at the occipital, right there at the nape, that's what you're looking for. So always go back and check your profile and make sure that it's complementary and not like a weird dinosaur thing coming out the back of the head. All right, so these pieces are cool, love them, want to leave them just like this. And so now I'm going to take this and we're going to show you one other way how to just pin this before I actually go in and create my bun on top. A couple things. This is where, let me pin that first. Let me show you how to pin this and secure this, and then I'll talk about extensions. All right, so quick little trick. Now, a lot of times you'll see me work with, oh, it's right here, I dropped it already. Okay, you'll see me work with these regular rubber bands. Swear by them, love them. Two ways you can do this. You could hook 2 bobby pins on this, but look, it's too big, right? It's not, you're not guaranteeing hold. All right, so we'll toss that one away. So instead, let's do it this way. All right, so I'm gonna take these 2 elastics. You've probably seen this before. Basically gonna tie them together. But so we're just gonna take that piece just like that. I know you can't really see this with my awesome fingers right in the way. And we're gonna pull through, create a knot. Okay, just like that. Cool. So now look at the expansion that I have versus if I just did one elastic, I wouldn't be able to expand over that. Plus, I get stability right there in the middle. So you can double up, you know, put 2 on this side, put 2 on this side. It's probably the safest way to do it. And then I'm just going to take these 1.5 inch bobby pins. I'm going to hook 1 on each side, just like that. Okay. And then I'm going to take this right across the top. Lift this out of the way. If you don't want to leave any of this down, at that point you can take this up, but I think I'm just going to leave it down. You just never know. It might, fill in a gap right there. We might leave some of it down. So I'm actually going to leave that down. I like these pieces. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this right across the top. And where am I putting this? That's important. I'm putting this right at the top of the crown. See that? So that everything can sit right on top of it, just like that. So don't go too high because then you're taking away the space. Don't go too low because then your bun is actually going to fall at the tip of the crown, and we want it literally sitting on top of the head. So I'm just going to take this guy, open it up just like this, lock one side in right there, bring it across, lock in the other side. Just like that. Awesome. Good to go. All right, if you want to add a little bit of security, I love to do this. Just take your Sebastian or any aerosol spray and just really glue that sucker in place. Two options at this point. You can take your hair padding. If we need hair padding for volume, then this is a great time to do that. Or if we need to add in any extensions, then this is a great time to do that as well. So if you were adding in extensions, then what you would do is you would just take some clip-in extensions, fold them up at the clip so that you have all the clips and then all of the hair. And then you would actually hook the extensions right here, then put another elastic, then put your padding on top of that. That's going to hold it all in place. We're going to use a little bit of padding because we want maximum height. So I'm going to unroll this padding just a little bit because I don't want a ton of it. I did not keep my scissors close by me. Hold one. I'm going to grab my scissors. They were by us earlier. All right, so I'm unrolling just a regular donut. And then I'm just going to take about this much padding. I don't want a ton, but I want added security. All right, and then I'm just going to cut this. Ooh. Just like that. And then I'm just going to fold this guy up. Okay, just like that. Don't want it too big. And then I'm going to place that right there on top. And then this hair is going to come and cover it up. Perfect. All right, real quickly, let me show you something. So I put this too low, this elastic here. If I pull this and bring this back, one, I need to make sure that I cover this elastic, which is fine. I probably could. And that's a good spot. Let's bring it around the front. I want it to come just a little bit forward. So if you make this mistake, no big deal. Double check before you move on. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to release this after I put in all of that hairspray to lock it in. I'm just going to release this. I'm going to pull my hair a little bit higher on the crown and then just put my elastic right back. And I must have a pin right there because it doesn't want to go in. All right, so just put that back in. So adjustments can be made. So don't think that just because that bobby pin went in that it can't be moved. It can definitely be moved. So I just moved it up literally like 1/8 of an inch. So not even a lot, but enough that it's going to make a difference when I put that padding on and I cover that elastic with my padding. Does that feel okay? Mm-hmm. All right. That pin was a little tight, so just wanted to check in and make sure that I don't hurt her. So now I'm going to take my padding, just a small little amount, put it right there. I'm covering that up. And then just secure that by grabbing a little bit of the padding, and then running that bobby pin right along the scalp. Do all 4 corners. That's nice and secure. All right, so our side is done. All right, but this looks a mess. Don't worry about it because this hair is going to come down on top of it. So now if I wanted extensions, this is what the extensions would be underneath this and they'd be coming out the front. And then we would have more hair to cover this with. I don't need it. We're good to go. I'm going to use the hair that I have here. So I'm going to split this hair in two equal size. Just kind of combing through with my fingers. I'm going to add some volume powder. Now you could do this in one, or you can do this in two. I always like to do it in two just because I feel like I have a little bit more control over the hair. So I'm just adding that volume powder. I'm not going to back comb because I do have quite a bit of hair. Twist this together just like that. And then we're going to bring this down. And we're going to spread this out as much as possible with that volume powder. Check your side over here. Okay, because we want to expand this. Before you pin anything, make sure that you've expanded it as large as possible and that all of that padding is covered on that side. So we can add in just regular hairpins if you want, or you can add in your, I'm looking for my hairspray. You can add in hairpins to hold it in place if you're not ready to secure it and commit to it, or you can go ahead and just commit to it. I'm going to commit. I'm happy with it. So I'm just going to take my closed bobby pin and lock in that section and make sure that it's going straight into that padding. And as I pin, I'm making sure that I love every bit of this, like the texture. And then you can still expand that. You can even go in and add a little bit more volume powder if you want for airiness. Remember, you get a little bit of hold with that volume powder because of the grip that it creates on that strand. Isn't that awesome? That's only one side. So now we're going to go and almost do the exact same thing on the other side. Would you recommend using a little hair padding even if they have longer, thicker hair to have a base to secure pins on? I do. That's a great question. I do. If you're working with really coarse hair, then it's awesome because it takes up so much more space, right? Because it's a thicker hair strand. So it does take up that space, but it also is heavy. And so I think adding in any bit of padding, I think it's really important because then you're actually pinning your pins into something versus pinning them into just more hair. And I think that that's really helpful for added security. All right, I like this right here, so I'm just going to add that pin in right there. You can see I just added another line of texture. I'm all about as much texture as possible. All right, so I'm going to grab some bobby pins and flip over to the other side. You can see from the front that that's where it will land. And so that's a perfect spot for it. Not too far forward, but not too far back, that it looks like, you know, kind of like a midi updo. So I'm adding in that volume powder to that section. Again, I'm not going to back comb this section. And the reason why I'm not back combing this section is because one, she has a ton of hair. It's just fine. So it's soft and it falls, but I don't want to add any more back combing that I have to actually hide, if that makes sense. I don't want to have to hide it. All right, so then I'm going to take this, split it into two, and create a really light twist. Really light, really gentle. You don't want it to be too tight because you don't want to take up too much of the hair to where you don't have the ability to stretch the hair. All right, so I'm doing the exact same thing. Now, one thing you could also do if you're working with a ton of hair, depending on the aesthetic that they want, you know, because you can create this style and you can create this style with a really, really clean, sleek bun or a really messy bun. You really have so many options. And because of that, there's different techniques that you can use. So if I was doing like a sleeker option and I wanted the bun to be a lot cleaner, maybe not show like any frizz whatsoever, if that was the case, then I probably would take this and put in three different buns, or excuse me, three different sections. Because what that's going to do is one, it's going to, if I have more hair, then it's going to take up that hair for me so that I have control over all of the hair. But what it's also going to do is it's going to create more lines and twists. If you do three, then you'd have one down the middle, one on the side, one on the side. And I have created that look several times with longer hair. It's a great option, but it is going to create, again, more lines, more loops. And so that has to be something that your bride or your client actually desires. But that would be a way to kind of eliminate and work with so much hair. All right, so I'm just checking all of this, making sure that I like it before. One thing to notice is that when I'm creating this bun on top of Cheney's head here, let me get this pin in, it doesn't want to go in. You can see that the max amount of volume is closer here. So it's not a circular bun right on top. So if you notice, you can see that there's a lot of volume here, and then it gets narrower and narrow and blends into that twist. That's also something that you're looking for in this look. So that's why I like to have the bulk of the hair and the volume in the front and then twist back versus twisting around the head. If you twist around the head, then a lot of times you're going to have bulkiness in all the way around, and it's going to create that circular bun. We don't want that with this look. So don't be afraid to try different techniques, but the ultimate goal is to have the majority of that hair forward versus having a symmetrical bun on top of the head. Now I do need to go in and cover up this padding a little bit more. So I'm going to take the hair and just start working this hair. I like this piece just kind of coming out right here. I'm not afraid of these ends just kind of flowing. So I'm just going to pin that right there so that it's in place. And then I like that piece right there. You know, Cheney has really pretty hair color. She has really pretty hair. It's just fine. But the color is awesome. So having that really light highlight piece right there is really pretty. All right, and then let's just start working this hair. Making sure we like both of the sides. What I like to do also is make sure that my twist as it's coming around, that it kind of mimics and blends with the twist from the side. So as much of the like C shape or happy face that you have here, I kind of like these ones to mimic that a little bit, especially right through here so that it blends. And then we're just gonna leave that piece there. Let's swoop this around to the front and double check our symmetry. And we have a couple pieces down here that we'll still work with. Out. I'm just checking the back here, guys. Let me turn it around so I can show you what I'm doing in the back. Because I have a couple options, right? This is kind of cool, leaving this down. Look at that from the back. Really nice, right? I could leave this down. This is a little frizzy, so let's kind of deal with that because we want messy, but we don't want nappy. So let's find out the direction of this hair right here. Now this is from that other twist. It's coming the opposite way. So I'm just going to take this hair because I hate nappy. And it's just because it's the ends, right? Like our ends get kind of frizzy. So we don't want frizzy, but we want messy. So I'm going to take this and just clean this up a little bit. I can tuck this right underneath here, just so that it looks cleaner and on purpose. And see, I don't know if you guys can see that difference, but I can immediately see that difference. And those details really change the overall aesthetic of the style. So I got that piece right there, it's cleaned up. And then I can just tuck this pin right in there, make sure that that piece is nice and secure. Oh, we can still leave that piece out. That's cute. Just like that. Now, so we have these pieces. Like I said, we could leave them. See this side over here? I like that. Or we can take this and we can wrap some of this up, like I showed you earlier. If we wanted to just leave out one or two, if we don't want to leave out so much, we could take this and we could pull this up and make it shorter. Okay, so we could bring that up and make it shorter. Or we can take this all the way up and just add another line of texture just right there on the side. And then it gives a little bit, not so perfect up there on the top. See? Because that's what we want. We want fun, but we don't want too perfect. And that's what happens with this style sometimes, is that it just gets too perfect. And I don't know about you, I'll be completely honest. It is much easier for me to create really, really clean looks than it is to create boho messy looks. I struggle with boho messy because I'm like, it's a mess and I don't want it to be a mess. But when you're creating a look like this, then you want a little bit of a mess. You just want a controlled mess. I like that section right there. I'm just going to take this and pin that right up just like I did. And I'm going to leave these pieces out. I'm even going to leave this longer one out right here. I like my texture. All right, I got an exposed pin up here. So I need to make sure that I cover up that pin, which means I'm just going to take another pin and just shimmy this through and make sure that that section is covered up, and also just creates a cute little, what do I always say? Another line of texture. You guys are going to like have nightmares over my voice saying that. Now, I left out these little pieces in the side here. Sometimes it's fun to just take these and swoop them through with a topsy tail versus trying to take hair from up here and have those tendrils. So I always leave out just a little bit. What we don't want is we don't want this harsh part here. So let's take some volume powder. Now these are just the finishing touches. So all of this hair is in place. It's secure. At this point, it's more just aesthetically, what do we want to do with what I like to call like the ribbon pieces, the final touches. And this is when you really want to check in with your client and ask them, you know, how much hair do you actually want down around the face? Do you like this piece? And sometimes your client is not going to know. And if that's the case, totally fine. They just might not know. So show them. All right. So I could be like, hey, Cheney, you can have this much down, or you can have this much down. And then she can decide which one she likes better. She doesn't get a voice today, even though I love her, because I really like just this piece down. Do you see how that's just shaping her face really nicely and aesthetically? What is happening is, look at here. It's not dragging her down. Do you guys see that? So we're still narrow here, which is where we need to be. We need to be narrow right here, bulky at the top, just at the very top, narrow across the occipital. And then if we take this hair away and put this back, you see that we see her face, right? We see like the perfect little framing of that fringe around her face. With this down, it pulls her out this way. And that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to pull your client out wide. We're looking for narrow and height with this style. So we're going to take these pieces. We want to make sure that we don't have crazy separation here. And I mean, like, you don't want that parting to show. That's all I mean by crazy. Okay. And then just always mimic the same lines of texture if possible. So this one's really pretty. We'll just, this guy wants to go on its own. Fine. You go on your own then. Okay. And then this one you could always bring through here. And if you wanted, you could bring it across and just topsy tail it through. So let's just take this. And let's put in our topsy tail right about here. Pull that strand through. It just gives us a little bit more down there. There's that other strand. And I just like that line of texture, so I don't want to mess it up. I want it to go right there. So let's pin that in place. Now, paying attention to the color also is really important, because if this strand right here that I'm pinning right now was either really dark or really light, then it would stand out. And it might not stand out to the naked eye when we're actually looking at the style, but as soon as somebody goes and takes a picture of it, it's going to stand out. And you're going to be like, oh, I hate that blonde hair standing out right there. Because it's just the focal point, and it will just kind of poke you in the eye each time. So we have good little tendrils over here on the side. All right, so let's just double check this side over here, because we do have the tendrils over here, and you can see she's a little bit smooth right here. So we need to give this side a little bit of character, I think. You don't have to, and it's totally up to your client, but for sake of class today, we're going to add in a little bit more movement and fun on this side over here. So first, let's take that extra hair that we left down. I'm going to swing her around to the front again, and we want to leave the same amount of hair out. I love that. If your bride comes in for a trial and has fringe, either like mine or like Cheney's, and they want this style, you will have to work with them on how can they prep their hair for, like with their normal hairstylist, how can they prep their hair in terms of cut and color to accentuate this style. So it's something, don't be afraid to talk to your clients about, hey, you need to add in a little bit more face framing right around the face here, because it's going to cut off, and then these hairs are going to be too long, and you're going to look like you have some weird fringe and long dog ears. All right, so that's up to you as the artist to let them know that, hey, maybe a little bit of face framing around this area would help capture this look better. It would help accentuate the style and just overall look better. So don't be afraid to tell them those things. They don't know, because nobody's ever told them, and they probably have never had their hair done like this before. So don't be afraid to inform them. All right, now let's add a little bit more texture. So we got that piece up, and then I just want a few more. I just don't want this so smooth. And the way I'm going to do this is just with some aerosol spray and my fingers. And I'm just going to spray these little pieces and then run my fingers right along them. And look at that. See how I just gave a little bit more visual interest instead of it being just such a sleek side. Personal preference, totally personal preference, all right? All right, let's double check the fringe. Oh gosh, such a cute look on you. All right, so we got a little bit of we're both going this way. So let's just tweak this guy. Make sure that he's going. What is this one doing? That one's going out. Such a cute look for you. Now, fringe is super personal. Like I said earlier in this class, I hate when people touch my fringe. I mean, I hate when people touch my hair at all. So check in with your client. And if your client wants to do her fringe herself, do not be offended, all right? Just let them mess with it. Let them tease it. Let them fluff it. Let them across the forehead. I know Cheney pretty well, so I'm going to add a little bit of volume powder in here. And the only reason I'm adding the volume powder in is for hold. I'm not adding it in for volume. I want it for hold. What this is going to do is it's going to make the hair lay exactly where I want it, but then I don't have to spray it the way I spray mine, because I like soak mine down with hairspray so that they never move. But that volume powder is going to give me a little bit more control at the root area, so then I can get this really nice pieciness down here. I don't want a ton of hold down here because I do want that pieciness and that separation. But I want hold up at the top because I don't want the style to be affected by some funky fringe. So what I recommend is kind of putting the fringe in place the way you think they'll like it, basically. And then hand over the mirror, and the comb, and the hairspray, and let them have control over how they want it. And don't take it offensively, because fringe is personal. Fringe is like eyebrows. You know, if somebody does it every single day, they know how they like it, and it's not offensive for them to just kind of take control over it. A little bit of hairspray to hold that, and we are finished. What do you guys think of this one? This one was fun to create with you. All right, I'm going to give her a little bit of a spin, and then we'll take some photos, and you guys will have those photos during the replay. But see how that all comes together, that twist. So creating that twist down not too low still gives me that opportunity to have all of this hair swoop up really nicely without having that twist down here. But then you bring all of that hair together. One of the mistakes that I see is that there's too much volume right here. So be conscientious of that. Volume needs to be up here, and then it needs to slope and get smaller and smaller and slope into the back of the head. All right, I will have the replay available for you guys shortly. Thank you so much for showing up live with us today. If you have any extra questions, DM me, Rachel.TheBridalStylist on Instagram. We're here monthly. All of our monthly classes are $49. We just want it to be low cost and educational, and make sure that you're growing as a bridal stylist and learning the basic techniques to build foundation, and then the advanced techniques to really perfect all of your bridal styles. So thanks again. I'm Rachel, and I hope to see you next month for our May class. Bye.